What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another Hot Toys 1/6 scale Star Wars figure unboxing. And just this weekend, Mandalorian and Grogu, the newest Star Wars film, is in theaters currently. So I figured why not do a couple more Mandalorian figures. So yesterday there was a Mandalorian and the Blurrg. But today we are unboxing Kuiil, the one that should be riding that Blurrg, and the man who had spoken, and I believe voiced by Nolte, who is just a legendary voice, legendary actor. But Kuiil here is TMS 048, 1/6 scale collectible figure. I think that's some figure photography on the front of the box there and on the little slip that goes around. Nothing on the sides of the boxes, the Star Wars logo up top, legal information, store locations, warnings on the back, nothing too crazy. So yeah, let's not waste any more time for y'all. Let's slide off this cover. Hope you guys are having a good weekend and hope you guys are going over to see The Mandalorian and Grogu in theaters. I think by the time this video comes out, I hopefully have seen it at least once, maybe even twice. But the front on the box there, when you open it up, you got the Blurrg, of course, and Kuiil. So I do have a Blurrg now in my collection, but I didn't want to get two Blurrgs. So I wanted one Blurrg, and I wanted Mando and Kuiil, and I probably will swap one or the other onto the Blurrg, and then one will be standing, next to it. But it looks like another Blurrg in the foreground here with like a trank dart. So just popping off the little cardboard cover and popping the plastic tray out of here. Huh, isn't that funny? So even though this is just Kuiil and this particular one doesn't come with the Blurrg, the instructions still say Kuiil and Blurrg. So make sure you guys read your instructions, make sure you're not breaking anything on the figure. So I don't know what Kuiil's species is, but I know I've just always referred to him as Nick Nolte character or Kuiil or, the I have spoken guy. But, he barely even fills the container here. He's got all this extra room at the bottom and he comes with some cool accessories. Looks like a backpack, some goggles, some other cool stuff, some guns, maybe some trank dart guns if that's what I think that is there. But just to take Kuiil out of the box for the first time and check him out, he's like this tiny little guy. Look how tiny he is. Oh god, I love Kuiil so much though. What a cool character. And he's got this little head covering on. It almost looks like a former flight pilot helmet, you know what I mean? Like maybe he was at one point a pilot, but no, I think he was always somebody that worked with his hands and he was able to craft things and make a living and buy his freedom over many years by the skills of his hands. Nick Nolte and this character in season 1, and yeah, I think it's only season 1. Really great character. They did Kuiil so dirty. I'm glad I now have him in my collection where he will never die. Ooh, I like this little backpack. Is it just magneted on? Possibly, maybe. I wonder how that attaches because the backpack's got no straps. I wonder if it is really just magnets on there. I'll have to read the instructions. But also I thought this was a leather backpack. It's sculpted hard plastic. That's kind of interesting as well. Looks like Kuiil here comes with some cool accessories. So why don't I pull everything up out of this plastic tray and lay it out here on the desk in front of me, and we'll take a closer look at everything that Kuiil has to offer because he has spoken. Alright everybody, we got the man Kuiil himself here standing in front of me, and this UGNUTT with his goggles I tossed on his forehead there, and I tossed the waist grabber around him, and he's on this little sandy base, but you can see his name, Kuiil, and Star Wars up front there. But where was he from? Tatooine or another planet? Something like that? Yeah, probably. It feels like every character from Star Wars is from Tatooine, doesn't it? But down here by his accessories, because this is just Kuiil, I didn't get Kuiil with the Blurrg, although I did get the Mandalorian with the Blurrg, so we will be able to show what Kuiil looks like on top of that Blurrg and what they look like posed together in the posing segment, so stay tuned for that. So just down by Kuiil's accessories here, starting off on the left side, he has this backpack and has some golden straps, but it's not a legit backpack, although that top feels like that maybe leather, but it is more like a sculpted piece. It's much more hard plastic than it is like a leather bag. He's got a little bit of tools or whatever on the back there. Maybe he's trying to build a lightsaber or something. I don't know what he's doing back there, but it doesn't have traditional straps, so I think you just kind of tuck this up underneath the back of his little cloak there, and he magnets onto the back of him so he can wear that backpack. But there's also those 2 little pouches that you hook onto his belt on the back side of him there. And, you know, they're pretty much the same exact thing, but they are slightly different. And there is 2 little things on the back of this. See how there's like 1 little dot on that one? That means that that goes on the left side of him. And the other one has 2 little dots right there, if you can see that. So the 2 dots is the right, the 1 dot is the left, you know, and that says that in the instructions. And then his hands, he's got 2 grabbing hands. He's got kind of like a saluting hand. He's got another grabbing hand that's meant for the gun. And then he's got 2 more relaxed hands on the figure himself, you know, and that is for, I think, just riding the Blurrg and like holding on to that strap up there. But speaking of the Blurrg, I believe this is Blurrg food or whatever that is, cement or something. But, you know, he has like a bucket that you can maybe toss in front of Mr. Blurrg there so he can get some chow. But the only 2 accessories that Kuiil came with that they didn't necessarily have any information on was that bucket and whatever this little thing is. Because this has like, you know, a couple of tubes and a red and green thing at the top. And then this spins around. So when I put this like up in a more vertical position, I was like, okay, maybe this is like a transponder of some kind or like a radio. Or maybe it's like a tool and he's like, you know, blowing some air off something. I don't know. Comment below what this little accessory is and how Kuiil uses it. Pretty cool nonetheless, little gold detailed little accessory there. But the gun here, I believe, is a dart gun where, like, you know, it's not like a traditional gun. And I believe this shoots tranq darts, and we have 1 little tranq dart here. And the coolest little detail about this is that it's magnetic to a spot on the Blurrg. And I'll show you guys that right now. So you got the Mandalorian and the Blurrg here, and then just this little dart can go back on this Blurrg's left hip, and it magnets into spot, and that's how it looks. I wish it looked more like a dart, like into the leg, you know what I mean, like poking out. But, you know, still having a dart right there, I kind of like that little accessory. But either way, you could probably have that on the side of the Blurrg and then have Kuiil up top and then have Mando on the side like he is. So that's probably how I'll end up posing these guys on the shelf. But as you can see, I also need to free up some space. So this weekend, I am going to tear this entire room apart, and we're going to be doing an entire collection rearranging and probably a whole nother collection tour video, because this room's going to look very different. And I've been kind of in love with the setup that I have right now, but it needs to change. So we're going to have to switch some things up and get a fresh start this weekend. But before I can get into all that, why don't I take a closer look at Kuiil himself in that base that he's standing on. All right, so we have Kuiil here next to the Mandalorian in the Blurrg. And just to take a closer look at Kuiil here, you can see down by his base, he's pretty much just on like a sandy, dusty planet. It's got no texture though, it's just smooth and flat. But down by his boots, he's got like a nice little pattern there on his boots. I kind of like that. Kind of like a faux leather with a nice little tread pattern down bottom. And then he's got like some little pocket here on his pants. That's kind of nice. I wonder if that's like where you stick that little metal thing. Like, I wonder if this little device here goes in there. I don't know. Still, comment below if you know what that is. Moving up, he's got another little pocket on the side there with some details on it. A little cake around back. He's got this strap where these little pouches get hooked on, and also the little backpack gets tucked up underneath one of these little sleeves here, these little lips. And, you know, he's got a little bit of hair underneath there. He's got little shoulder pads with some design on it. This little, like, scarf detail around the front. Little belt buckle with some design on it. Pretty cool. Some gold buttons. I like his little gauntlet wrist gloves there as well. Yeah, pretty cool looking character for Nick Nolte. And I have his goggles tossed on his head as well. And I've always debated, is this like a helmet or is this part of his DNA? This like leather cap. It looks more like a flight, you know, helmet for like a pilot, you know what I mean? But he was a worker. He worked with his hands. I wonder if this little mouth opens. It looks like it does just a little bit, but you know, I try to keep it as tight as possible. But yeah, Kuiil looks pretty damn good. And I think the only thing left to do for Kuiil here is toss him in some poses and maybe see what he looks like on top of that Blurrg. But you can see the little gold strap on the goggles there too. Yeah, he's a pretty good looking figure. I mean, as good looking as an UGNUTT can be. But yeah, it does a pretty damn good job of displaying Kuiil. And yeah, now I'm curious to see what he looks like on top of that Blurrg and with all of his accessories on him. So why don't we toss this bad boy into some poses and see what he is capable of. All right, everybody, we have our boy Kuiil just standing straight up and down just as he comes fresh out of the box. And I only tossed his goggles on his helmet there just to complete his look. And he's standing on a traditional Star Wars rectangle base. I then put Kuiil's backpack and his pouches on him, strapping them to his little belt there. And I have him with the dart gun over his shoulder, and he has that little gold device that he uses to maybe find the direction that he's supposed to be going in. And then I have Kuiil next to his Blurrg friend, and he has his bucket of food for the Blurrg in front of him like he's feeding it, and he's standing by the side of the Blurrg petting him as if he's making friends and bonding with the big Blurrgy creature. And then finally here I have Kuiil riding the Blurrg, and he does have that dart gun in hand pointing upwards, and he's got his other hand holding on to the reins, if you would, of the saddle, you know, and he's sitting on top there. And the one thing about sitting on top of the Blurrg is that the legs don't quite look right while he's sitting on it, but I guess it's the best it's going to look. But I like the fact that the Blurrg also has the magnetic part on its left hip for that dart gun that Kuiil comes with. I thought that was a nice little touch. And then in this final pose here, you can just see how I have them together, and I have the Blurrg and I have Mando standing on that base as well. And this is kind of what I wanted. I wanted to be able to have a season 1 Mando, the Blurrg, and Kuiil all together. Now I guess the hard part's going to be trying to figure out if this big old Blurrg thing will fit on the shelf. I am not that hopeful at the moment, but you know, I think I can make it work. You know, I just have to move some stuff around. So I think that's what I'm going to do the rest of this weekend. And I'm going to rip apart this room and tear all the figures off of the shelves and then put them all back in a more, you know, cohesive layout and a more feng shui layout, if you would, and something that works a little bit better overall for the layout in this room, and hopefully free up some space, hopefully not have to like demote any figures off the shelf. You know, I would theoretically like to keep everything I have on the shelves, but I would like to be able to add more because I've unboxed a few things over the last couple weeks and they don't have any rooms on the shelf at the current moment. And I have some stuff down the living room, you know, so I'm just trying to free up space and get everything back into this room, and I think it will be possible. But I'll tell you what, adding Star Wars figures to the collection was probably a terrible idea because now I keep buying Star Wars figures, and man oh man is there so many Star Wars characters. I thought Marvel and DC was bad, but diving down the Star Wars rabbit hole has caused a lot of problems for my wallet and my bank account. But that's enough for me today, y'all. Make sure you stay tuned in the future to more Hot Toys figure unboxings coming every weekend all through 2026. And this video should be coming out Sunday, so on Friday, I think the Mandalorian and Grogu movie came out, and there could be a movie review already up on the channel. I'll try to not include spoilers in that for anybody that's interested. I'm so excited to see that movie, though, up on the big screen again and have Star Wars back in theaters. But that's it for me, y'all. Thank you guys so much for sticking around this far into the video. And if you have made it this far and you would like to support the channel further, the best way of doing that is dropping a like on this video, commenting down in the comment section below, subscribing if you haven't already, and hit that bell so you don't miss future Star Wars Hot Toy figure unboxings and you get the notification when that comes out. Once again, my name's Big Cam. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you gorgeous folks in the next video. Peace.